All right, Jen, maybe you want to introduce this
Yes.
meeting.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I think it's the second webinar that we host at Elcano. So today we will talk about Gen AI and specifically what are the opportunities on these new technologies on knowledge management and other use cases. We'll focus much more on where this can bring value, what are the use cases that can be applied in the enterprise environment, and less so on the technology side. So we'll focus on the use case and also what will be the impact on the Elcano product. So today to present that, we'll have Manon Faure, which is Global Account Management at Elcano. So she will present the first part on the different type of use case that this technology can have in the enterprise environment. And then I will also present and focus on what does it mean for Elcano, what features and new product will be added to the Elcano solution with these new exciting technologies.
Yes, and feel free to ask your questions in the conversation, and we'll take a bit of time at the end to answer them. But yes, let's start with a bit of information about artificial intelligence. So maybe you feel like a few years ago, crazy scientists were talking about layers node and crazy machine learning algorithms to identify cats on picture, and you didn't pay attention. And one day you woke up and everybody was talking about artificial intelligence and how it is going to take control of the world. But just to try to understand a bit more what happened, it doesn't come from nowhere. At first, ongoing research in artificial intelligence has been using supercomputers with the primary goal of predicting the next word in AI. It has been observed that as models get larger and are fed with more data, their capabilities exponentially increased. But then what is generative AI exactly? So generative AI is like giving a computer the ability to be creative based on a given data set. So once it has seen enough examples, the computer can then create its own content that looks or sounds similar to what it has learned from. So the outcome of this technology is a computer adept at understanding natural language and equipped with a vast data set. And then using this technology, there is ChatGPT, which there is no need to present anymore, I think. But there is a lot more following. So the ecosystem has become a bit more complex, and organizations have entered a race to productivity in order to stay competitive. So many tools became available to facilitate knowledge sharing with a few predominant interesting, let's say, use cases. So let's check, for example, the most demanded generative AI use case identified by Microsoft and OpenAI pool. So 4 capabilities that seem to stand out based on what they have witnessed on the markets. The first one is content generation, second one, summarization, code generation, and semantic search. So content generation has sparked a lot of interest among those who want to be able to automate responses, for example. Second is summarization. So for example, for a call center analytics scenario, where a company would want to summarize conversation logs or be able to summarize long reports and tons of or analyst articles, for example. Code generation, third one, is speaking for itself, I think. And last but not least, semantic search will help quicken the time to search through documents. And we can see that, so this one has always been Kano premises, but we will also see how do we exploit the use case of content generation as well as semantic search for Elcano in the coming in the coming slides. So now if we focus on knowledge management use cases, let's see how this new technology is an opportunity to develop use cases around knowledge management. But if we start from the beginning and we take the core definition of knowledge management and knowledge engineering, we see that the first one is how to make the most of what your company is producing, which is basically knowledge. And the second one is being able to understand all of it and do all the tasks you can imagine with it. So creating, sharing, using, managing. But the idea is always to help you make the most out of your company's knowledge. So now let's see how we can use generative AI for knowledge management. So we can see that there are lots of use cases that can be investigated in a knowledge management context, such as summarization, knowledge extraction, sentiment analysis, topic modeling. So there are many. Now let's focus on a few ones. So here, the objective is being able to understand not only keywords, but the real meaning of each requests, taking into account some context and using semantic search to answer very precisely to requests. So the idea is to identify, label pertinent data to make sure that the meaning of what you're asking is understood and be able to be as relevant as possible. But also using semantic search to enable finding the right data directly, for example, through document indexation. So on the right, you have some query examples which could be asked, and the idea is always to find the most relevant data based on this request. Last one is linked to what we have seen, also being able to highlight specific information in documents and make them easily available internally. So for example, when we're talking about specific information, it could be topics, trends, summaries, and the idea is find this information, analyze it, and make it available to everyone in a format that is relevant for the person asking. So now we have that in mind. Let's see how those new technologies are an opportunity to develop and improve our solution to make it match those use cases and make it match also your needs. And I let Ian do the rest of the presentation, highlight on this.
Yes, so before we dive into the features and product that we could develop, I would like to do a first introduction with this slide. So if you can, yes. So our objective at Elcano has always been to combine artificial intelligence with a human-centric approach. That's why historically we always used algorithm to identify tacit experts in the organization, because we think and we know that the best way to acquire knowledge is through, from one side, data and artificial intelligence, and on the other side, let's say a human touch, a human context that can enhance the information and knowledge to deliver the best value for employees. So that has been our philosophy from the start and will stay the same with large language model. And based on that, we'll do two things. The first one is continuous improvement of our current features, and I will come back for those who don't know very well Elcano about our current features just after. But we will improve our document indexation and the cartography of topics and skills that we are currently doing with our product. But we will improve it to move to, as Manon was mentioning before, to move to more semantic search and understand better the concepts, key topics, and key semantics that are in the organization to deliver a more precise expert finder and a more precise knowledge sharing tool for each of our clients. So this is what we are working on, but we are also working on improving with new features. So it's not on improving the current features that we have in the product, but really developing new features that I will focus on in the coming slides. So for example, automatically drafting an answer for a query. So I will show you how this will work just in the coming slides, and also assistant for complex problems. And the last element is that once we have, let's say, nailed these two new features, then we will focus on developing actually a new future product that will focus on different and new use cases. So for example, automatic creation of draft documents, also something that I will explain in the coming slides. So if we move to the first feature on the and first, before to move to the first feature, to explain how Elcano works today. So if you go to the next slide, Manon, please. Yes. So as a quick reminder for those who know, but also a quick explanation for those who are not very familiar with Elcano, the idea of Elcano is that we enable each user in the organization to ask a question, a business question about something he's working on at the moment. In general, it's quite a long and complex question. And what we do is that we first analyze the question with natural language processing technologies to understand it. So with this, we understand the meaning of the question. Then we use an information retriever to analyze documents that are already existing in the organization. And based on this document analysis and information retriever, we are able to know what are the key topics and the key semantics of each document, and to know who worked on what and when in the organization. And from this information retriever and this analysis, we are able to identify who are the best experts in the organization to answer a given question. From there, we are able to send the question to the best expert in the organization automatically, and the expert is able to understand to understand the question and to answer the question in the solution. So to summarize, we find the best colleague to answer your question and connect you with him or her to build bridges within the organizations between different business units, locations, etc. So that's the current solution, the current use case. So if you can move to the next slide.
That's how it wouldn't.
Yes. So, and something that we are adding now is that we keep the same use case. We have the question. We use the information retriever. So we find, let's say, the best document that are related to the question. But here, instead of, we will still send the question to the expert, but we add one step on top. So first, we are improving our information retriever, meaning that instead of finding the best document to answer the question, we find the best sample of information among millions of documents. So we will parse not only the documents and find the best document, but find the best pieces of text within the documents. And for a given question, we can say the best pieces of text to answer the question will be these top 5 paragraphs in the millions of documents in the organization. And this paragraph can come from different documents. Once we have find this, we will use these paragraphs to ask the large language model, so that the generative AI solution technology that is embedded in our product. So we'll use these paragraphs plus the question that was asked at the start to ask the generative AI module to create a draft answer, the best draft answer to the question. Okay, and thanks to that, basically the large language model will generate a draft answer that takes inspiration from the pieces of document that the information retriever found to answer the question. So that will be the key step that we add in our current technology. Now, we know that with these new technologies, there is always a risk of hallucination, and we don't want to have just a machine answering a question. We want to keep this human touch philosophy that we had from the start at Elcano. So that's what we still keep this type of expert answering and expert validation. So what we will do is that we'll still send the question to the expert that we found from our technology. But instead of asking the expert to type the answer from scratch, we will propose this draft answer that was created by the large language model to the expert, and the expert will be able to say, okay, this is the right answer, or no, this is not the right answer, and we'll be able to modify the answer that the draft answer that has been created by the large language model. Once the answer has been approved and or modified, it will be sent back to the person that asked the question at the start. And also what's interesting is that we use this expert validation to further improve the large language model. So the more answer validation we'll have, the more answer edits and modification we'll have, the better the algorithm will become over time. So with the use case that I just described, we are really about finding the right piece of information, finding the right piece of data, and basically answering questions. So someone could ask, what is the difference between if I ask the same query to ChatGPT directly on the web? So first of all, there is something obvious which is about data security, but we'll maybe come back on this later on. But the key difference is that when you ask a question to ChatGPT, ChatGPT has been trained on public data. So basically the data that is available on the web. ChatGPT doesn't know about your internal document, thankfully. And doesn't know about the context that is specific to your organization. So right now we are running this new product, this new feature on our own data at Elcano. And basically, just to give you an example, if you ask the question to ChatGPT, what is Elcano? ChatGPT will not be able to answer you because on the web there is not enough data about Elcano yet. But it doesn't have enough information to be able to provide an answer on that. While at Elcano, when the generative AI has access to the Elcano documents that is available on the Elcano SharePoint, obviously it will have a lot of information about Elcano in these documents. And in this case, when we enable access to the internal document to the large language model, then the generative AI is able to draft an answer that is pretty accurate and that can be validated or edited by the expert internally. So that was our key, let's say, new feature to our current product. And this is what we are working on right now. So it is actually already ready from a POC standpoint, and we are launching it this month with 2 of our key clients. And if you want to see a demo, for example, of this first feature, we'll be happy to show you in a specific call if you want to in the future. So that was our first feature. Now, and we will move to things that will come more in the, let's say, in the mid-term, long-term, about new features that are a bit further from our current value proposition. And also a new product that I will show at the end. So the first other new feature that we wanted to talk about is assistance to complex problems. So here we saw also with a few of our clients that they use Elcano really to find experts on really complex problems. We see that a lot of questions are business critical and quite complex. So we show you an example here on that is inspired by the question that we saw at one of our clients, so on how to launch a wind energy project in south of France. So if someone adds this to Elcano currently, it will be sent to a few experts that will be experts on these topics and that will be able to answer. What we see sometimes is that in this example, the question is so large that it's very difficult for one expert to provide an answer on all the variety of problematics that are implied by this question. And something that we are currently thinking about and we start to work on towards the end of the year is based on the given question to be able to decompose a question on a series of sub-problems. So to say, for example, to use the large language model to do that. So if you want to launch a wind energy project in the south of France, you need to do a feasibility study, you need to look at regularity and compliance, engineering design, financing, and commissioning. So there is a variety of different underlying problems behind this question. So what the product will do will be to understand the question, to decompose it into a variety of sub-problems, and then from there to find the best experts and the best pieces of information, the best pieces of data within the organization for each of the sub-problems, and to send the question adapted to the sub-problem to each of the experts on the sub-problem to be able to have for one question a variety of answers that will be specified for each sub-problem of the question. And lastly, so this too was really about how to improve our current product, but we think that there are much more different use cases that will be developing over time within our organization thanks to large language model. I think that it's only the beginning and it will take 4, 5, 6 years before we see the full potential of this technology into the workplace. And the idea is really how to help employees to work better, to be more productive, and to find time to be also more creative, to use the best of the technology, to have then the time to use this technology to create a better quality of work. And in this context, one of the key product that we want to develop is to enable employees to draft a piece of text, a document, thanks to a large language model, and a large language model that will be able to take into account the existing documents of the organization as examples. So it's a bit abstract. Let me give you a bit more specifics on this example. The key here is that the large language model will have access to the existing PowerPoints, PDFs, Words that you have created in the past. If the large language model has access to this piece of document, it can use that as example to create new drafts of documents for new projects that you have in the future. So in this case, you will not ask a question to the expert, you will ask to the large language model to draft a document that you want to then use for a new project, a bit like if you have, let's say, an intern and you want to ask the intern to draft something that you work on together later on. So let's take an example. So let's say that there is an employee who is working with Louis Vuitton and would like to create a new commercial proposition, a new proposal for a client. But this person already has existing proposals that has been created in the past for another very similar client. This person can say, here is some context about this new proposal and type a bit of context with his or her query, and to take the example of the proposal from another similar client, and on top giving some context. and from there to ask the large language model to create a draft proposal. This draft proposal will obviously not be perfect, but it will save a lot of time for the person that is starting the new project. The key here is that we are pretty confident that the technology will give good results with this use case. The key challenge here will be how to train employees to use this new technology and to ask to the large language model to create this draft in the right way and to, let's say, nudge or train the employees to use it to instruct the large language model in the right way. So this will be difficult. It will take a bit of time. People are not used to it. Sometimes we have a big move, let's say, from Google to ChatGPT, if you think about it. So we are used to type very short queries to have results from the technology. And now with large language model is exactly the opposite. You need to think about what you ask to the technology. You need to be quite articulate about how you ask it. And to take the time actually to type a query to have good results. If you type just a very short sentence with 4 words, it's not going to work. So that's why we will create an interface that will be again embedded in Microsoft Teams as our current product, but that will nudge, enable the employees to type his or her query the right way. And give him idea about what to draft and give him ideas about how to let's say to instruct or to type the query to create the draft.
And that's it, unless you wanted to add anything else, Yen. But if not, we can move to the
presentation.
Okay. So if not, we can move to the questions. There has been one asking which LLM are you integrating to Elcano? Does it require a large GPU capabilities to run?
So in terms of the LLM that we are integrating, so right now we are working with 2 different large language models. The first one is Llama from Meta, Facebook, and the second one is from OpenAI, and it's available on Azure. In terms of CPU, it really depends on the architecture that each of our clients would choose. So we will propose 2 different kinds of architecture. The first one, where the large language model is as a managed service on Azure. So that means that it will be on a secured Azure within the region of the company, and the data will not go out of this Azure, but it will still be shared between different clients. So this will not require a lot of CPU. It's pretty cheap, and there will be also another option to run actually the large language model on the server of the client. So the first option will be more with OpenAI. The second option will be more with Llama. And this will require a bit more resources in terms of infrastructure, but it's reasonable. It's not something that it doesn't mean a huge cost to run something on your servers.
All right. Is there any other questions? Feel free to ask them in the conversation, or you have a Q&R tab. You can ask your question into. Maybe let's leave a bit of time for people, but if not, then this webinar will end earlier than expected. Okay, we have Using LLM for drafting answers means to vectorize all documents.
Yes. So when we create a draft answer, it means that the information retriever that exists before the large language model is really important because the quality of the draft answer really depends on the data that is inputted to the LLM. So that's why for the information retriever, we use semantic search and we vectorize the documents and the pieces of text. But now there is a new Elastic module that enables to do semantic search and embeddings directly in the index that works pretty well with not too much resources.
All right. Vectorizing can be GPU intensive, no, especially if we consider a company with thousands of documents.
Yes, it can be, but now with you have with the new index of Elastic, where you have the embedding directly into the index, it can give also a good result without too much effort. On top of that, we are also deploying optimization to make sure that it doesn't cost too much for clients.
Okay, and there is another one from Monica. Can an AI-created answer be really verified by human experts?
Yes, the idea is that all AI-created answer will be validated by a human, and that within the current products that we are proposing, the AI never answers by his own to a human. We all want to make sure that there is a human validation.
Yes, and the interface will really be made for the solution to ask for validation each time before to send an answer. So that's something that will be integrated within the interface. So I don't see any new questions. But if you have any and you didn't have the chance to ask them now, please feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to schedule a meeting. I see someone writing. But if you need further information, please feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to discuss it further with you. And thank you, everyone. Then.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye then.